What's up, military millionaires? I'm your host, David Pere, and today we are here with Brent Bowers, who is a 8-year, I believe it said, Army veteran who runs Land Sharks. We've had him on the show before. He is a land, you could call him flipper, investor, creative, financier. There's a lot of interesting terms that go into the land investing world. And if you haven't gone back and listened to that show, you should. I've always been a fan of the land real estate strategies because they're different, but they're very creative. There's just a lot of stuff you can do with them, right? And so Brent reached out the other day and was like, hey, we should definitely do another podcast together. And I was like, yes, we absolutely should, because I think there's a lot of opportunities coming up in the land world over the next few years, with the way that you can purchase and a lot of the different things. And I actually did my first land deal over the last year, my first true land deal, which we're going to talk about because I'm going to try to pretend like I know what I'm doing at some point through the show. And Brent's going to pretend he either says that was a good deal or he's going to make fun of me and tell me what I did wrong. But either way, Brent, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. This is going to be awesome. I'm excited. Lots happened since then. I mean, 2 years ago, I think, is when last time we talked.
I know, right? Yeah, it was one of the first. I think you were one of the first few when Alex was co-hosting.
Yeah, no, we're missing Alex today.
Was co-hosting, like he's not anymore. He's just out of town right now. Yeah,
that's all right. We all need days off, I guess.
So what's new?
What's new? It's been a fun ride, and still focusing on the passive income, because really, I don't call myself a land investor. I don't call myself a business person or a guru. I just call myself a lifestyle investor, because every land deal we do, let me back up. 9 out of 10 land deals that I do is going to give us passive income and lifestyle freedom, time freedom, financial freedom. My goal right now, and it's not a knock your socks off goal, but my goal is just for my team or myself, one or the other, to get one land sale a week right now that gives us passive income. How do we get that? Is by selling a piece of land and holding the finance. And I want it to be at least $250 a month gross every single week, 4 times a month for the next 3 months. That's going to add another $3,000 a month to our passive income. And there's this great book called The 12-Week Year. And I'm thinking like that, 4, 8, 12. So 12 weeks at a time, we can move the needle very quickly. So nothing much has changed with me other than the fact that we built the passive income. I've coached a lot of people along the way. My students are doing way better than me in their land business. It's killing my competitive side. However, I also am taking that as I'm a good coach now. So it's amazing. And it also drives me because I'm a competitive guy. So my students are doing better. So it makes me like, okay, let's get back to work here. So that's really it.
Yeah. I think that's you made the joke there, the reference of that means I'm a good coach, but I mean, that's the reality, right? Like if you look at, Warren Buffett, and he's always quoting the Intelligent Investor, right? And that book that he's read 6 million times from,
Benjamin Graham.
Benjamin Graham. There we go. Yeah. Thanks for holding it up so I could remember his first name and pretend I knew what I was talking about. But Benjamin Graham wasn't Warren Buffett as far as success in investing, because Benjamin Graham learned a lot of that stuff himself, and then he put it in a book, and Warren was able to take that and learn it in a quarter of the time by reading the book. Yes. And then expound upon it. And so it's just, you were able to learn a lot of this stuff. And then as you pass it on to someone else, you shorten the learning curve. So it makes sense that they would achieve maybe not necessarily more success, but a level of success in a shorter amount of time. Because
such a good point.
The learning curve, which is.
Yeah, you've excited me. I need to pick up the Intelligent Investor again. And I breezed through it, and it was kind of a drier book. It really didn't get me too excited, but I saw really the bare bones techniques of it. I mean, it's just a foundation. So you've excited me to pick the book back up again and study it, because here's the thing. I read it a couple of years ago. I'm a different person now than I was a couple of years ago. We all are.
Yeah, it's way too detailed for my attention span for sure. I listened to the audiobook and I was like, oh my gosh, it's very technical, and I am not very technical.
Yeah, no, no kidding.
But
Same
yeah,
here.
it's good read for sure. So give you want to give the audience like a brief overview of kind of what it is that your strategy when it comes to land, or strategies, I guess. I mean, obviously there's more than one, but
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
what does
There.
a normal land deal look like?
So, my favorite land deal is I'm going to buy it for 5, 10, or 15,000. And we'll keep giving Benjamin Graham the credit here because he talks about this in his book, is getting something that's on sale. He talks about buying discounted groceries, not paying retail like we would for like perfume or cologne. All I'm doing is getting a piece
Yeah,
of land under contract at a discount. I can choose to buy it and turn around and flip it with a realtor on the MLS, or flip it myself, or sell it on seller financing, my preferred method, and allow someone to make payments. We were looking at the Jeep Grand, whatever, the real expensive Jeep now. I forget what it is, but I was like, how do people buy these? They're $80,000, $85,000 vehicles, and this is a Dodge. And then it hit me again. Oh yeah, they finance it for 72 months at like 3 or 4% interest, so their payments like $800 a month. That's how these people can afford an $85,000 Jeep Grand Mountaineer, whatever it's called.
yeah,
And that's the same thing we do with the land. We get a down payment that's affordable for our buyer, and we get an affordable monthly payment, $300, $400, $500 a month. Sometimes I'll go 30 years for financing, and people are like think I'm crazy because I'm doing that, but I'm just following the bank's example. They're the biggest, prettiest, nicest building in almost every city in every state because they understand compounding interest. Because on a 30-year mortgage at 6% interest, if you borrow $200,000 for a property, you're going to pay back over $430,000. That's not 6% interest. That's compounding interest. So that's my favorite preferred method way to sell a piece of land. There's other ways. Well, maybe you might be thinking, oh my, I don't have the money to, I don't have 5,000. I don't have 15,000 to buy the land. Well, what if you get the land under contract at 50 cents on the dollar? The land say worth, let's say 90,000. It's worth 90,000. How do I know it's worth that? Because I look on Redfin and I see other half-acre lots are selling for 90,000 in this area in the last 3 months. So I know it's worth 90,000. I get it under contract at, let's just say, 45,000. And there's a builder that's building new houses down the road. He would be happier than ever to get a 10% discount. So he'll pay, let's just say 80,000. And I know that math's not adding up. I'm just doing quick, easy math. But the builder will pay 80
yeah,
for a
close
lot
enough.
that's worth 90, and you got it under contract for 45,000. Let's do the math. 55, 65, 75. That's $35,000 net profit you can do an assignment fee. What is an assignment fee? It's basically I'm taking my purchase agreement that I've got with the seller for 45,000. I'm selling it to Bob the builder for 80,000. I'm taking the difference between 80 and 45,000. So I just make a quick $35,000 assignment fee, and I never had to buy the land. And your audience is probably thinking, well, heck, I'd rather do that than buy the land and seller finance it. $200-$300 a month is not going to change my life. But let me tell you, it will, especially when you get 100 of those coming
Yeah,
in. So that's it. That's really the
yeah,
strategy. There's 3 ways to sell it.
I love it. So the one that I did, you know, we stumbled across it. We were doing wholesale and stuff, and we were doing some off market stuff, and it was a direct mailer. Landed on a vacant lot between I run it like a commercial, like a recording studio and a single family house. And it's this vacant lot that's zoned commercial. And, the house basically parks all their cars on it, but the recording studio is short on parking. And so when we were talking to I called the guy and was like, hey, talking to the owner of this lot, would you be interested in buying it? And he's like, oh, actually, I was going to buy it from him for $35,000 last year, but the title was clouded. They had I forget what it was, but it was clouded for some reason. I think they'd bought it at a tax auction, and so the title was clouded. They couldn't, whatever it was, he wasn't comfortable, so he didn't go through with it. And we knew we could get the title cleared up. So it's like, okay, cool. Well, if I get the title cleaned, would you still want the lot? He's like, yeah, absolutely. It turns out he didn't, but that was beside the point. I was like, sweet, I got a slam dunk. I got this thing under contract for $8,500. This dude wants it for 35. Even if I get it to him at 2025, easy money. Ultimately, that's not what happened. He basically ghosted us and, whatever. But I sold it to somebody. I think I paid $8,500 down cash, or not down, just $8,500 cash. And then I sold it to somebody for, I think it was $2,500 down. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but $2,500 down, 9.5% interest, $20,000, and amortized, I think, for 10 years with a 3-year balloon. So the payments, it's only like $130 a month or something like that that's coming in, but it's going to balloon at 36 months. And by the time it's all said and done, I think it'll come in at like right at $24,000. And I think I'm all in at like $8,800. So I'm not
that's a slam
upset
dunk
about
deal.
it. Should have all my money back. And yeah, I'm not upset about it at all. So
I mean, we usually in the Land Sharks community and the Rhino tribe, we hit the victory bell for deals like that. So I just blew half your audience eardrums there, so I apologize to anybody. But I did try and back from the mic. But that's a victory bell type deal. I mean, first of all, the neighbor told you what it was worth, what he like, because at the end of the day, it's only worth what the buyers say it's worth. So that told you right there, you had a $35,000 asset under contract for $8,500. So that is phenomenal. Sounds like you got the person that bought it, the seller that you bought it from, had it on a treasurer's deed. So yeah, that's a simple cloud in the title. Usually it's like what, $25 for a quiet title process, $2,500.
Yeah,
and you had resourcefulness.
It didn't take too much to get it fixed.
Yeah, and you knew you could fix it. You just knew there's no problem we cannot solve. Like I think Earl Nightingale says, if you look at daily challenges and problems like breathing, we don't even think about breathing, right? You will be so much more successful that you'll be like the top 1%. If you look at challenges and problems daily as breathing, as if you're just breathing, that's it. Because we're guaranteed, I think we're guaranteed 2 things in life: problems and death. We can get out of taxes. If you buy, multifamily buildings and apartment complexes and houses, you don't have to pay taxes with cost segregation. But we're guaranteed problems and challenges. So you had the resourcefulness just to know that you could fix whatever you came across. So I love it, man. 3-year balloon. Hopefully he has the rest of the money in 3 years, the buyer.
I mean, I hope so. We're 11 months in. He hasn't missed payments. So far so good, right? He's actually been so early on payments that I got the check yesterday and I was like, I don't actually know if I'm early or if this is late anymore. Like, I had to like look back. I'm like, is this like 3 weeks late on October's payment, or are we 2 weeks early on December? I don't know where we're at. And I had to go back.
Oh,
and like,
man.
no, we're like 2.5 weeks early. Okay.
I need to introduce you.
Whatever. So
I need to introduce you to EasyNotePayments.com. They track all of our notes because I would never. I think I got to 3 and I was losing my mind because one guy was bringing me cash to my house. Another guy was mailing me a check. And then the third guy was sending me money orders that he would forget to sign. I had no track of anything. Now the payment comes directly out of their bank account. And if the money's not in their bank account, it will go to the secondary payment of a credit card. And then the money comes to our bank account, which we pay like 30 cents a transaction and like 3%. And that does add up. But we charge our buyers a note service fee each month to cover those kind of things.
That makes sense. I like that. Yeah, Easy Note. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, that's awesome. So somebody wants to get started in land, and they're like, okay, great, this sounds wonderful, but what do I do? Do I just like walk around and find a piece of land and then put a sign in it that says, I want to buy your house? But how are you finding these things?
I mean,
it's not like you can just walk up and knock on the door.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea.
You'd get my attention, right? If you showed up if I had a vacant lot and you stuck a sign in it that said, "Hey, asshole, I want to buy this," and I drove by it, I'd be like, who the heck put this in my yard?
Yeah.
Probably work, but
For any of you house investors, David just gave you the most brilliant idea. If you've been door knocking, these people are not answering the door and you can't get a hold of them, go put a sign on the tree on the front yard, or maybe just one on the post. Don't mess the tree up. That'll get someone's attention pretty quick. That's how we sell a lot of the land to the neighbors. We put a sign right on the land. And funny story, I used to move so much in the military. My son was 5 years old. We lived in 5 different places by the time he was 5 years old. But I had all these massive boxes in my garage. And I'm sure your whole audience knows exactly what I'm talking about, because every time we move, we have all these boxes. Well, I used to put my land for sale signs. Yeah, we build forts out of them. And then I would put them on trees or those survey stakes and say, must sell land, 300 a month, or, 25,000, whatever. But the problem is in Colorado, it doesn't rain very often. But when it did, it rained. So my signs would just get all wilted. But it would last for a couple of weeks. Free sign, right? But how did they get started? Let's get to the practical stuff. The way I got started, I was stationed at Fort Carson. And I called the county treasurer. Florida's called the tax collector. They do things called tax deed auctions and tax liens. So you just want to learn your state. Just look up NOLO Press or tax. Is my state a tax lien state or a tax deed state? And some states like Florida are both. So just get a little educated on that. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm getting at is like Colorado, you have 3 years to get your taxes caught up. And if not, the person that's been paying your back taxes and getting an interest rate for doing that, they can go in and foreclose on your land or your house or your apartment complex, whatever it is. And they can kick you out for not paying the taxes. So what I would do was that first list I got, and it was a scanned in PDF that they only gave me schedule numbers, which is another name for assessor's parcel numbers, APNs. And my virtual assistant, thank God I had her at the time. I found her through Upwork.com, but she would put the schedule number into the county assessor's website and get the name and the mailing address. And if there was an address for the land, she would get that as well. And I sent a handwritten postcard, and I could totally give your audience the postcard that I was sending. It's if you just go to thelandsharks.com/postcard, this is the exact postcard. We still send them today. We've changed it up a little bit, but that is a handwritten postcard. It basically says, hey, my name's Brent. I'd like to buy your land at 123 Main Street. Or if it didn't have a street, it would say like Wichita Avenue. And I sent out 687 of those to people that were right at the 3-year mark on the tax delinquent list. And my phone blew up within the first couple of weeks. And the first deal was a gentleman. He was a retired CPA. He said, look, I don't really want the land anymore. I traded it for taxes many years ago. And I think I might have shared it on your last show, so I won't dive into it too much. But we got the land under contract for $285, and I had no idea what it was worth. But I started calling realtor offices around, and then lo and behold, a realtor made an offer for $5,000, and I took it. I took $285 and turned it into $5,000. So you got to pick your area, and I love to grow where you're planted. I recommend starting within about a 2.5 hour radius of where you currently live. That first piece of land was 45 minutes for me. So pick the area, then find a list of landowners. You can do that with PropStream, or you can do it with the county tax delinquent list. Some of these counties, they charge an arm and a leg for the tax delinquent list. Plan B, I would recommend just go to PropStream and pull a list of landowners. What land do you pull? Well, let's go to redfin.com and see where the land's selling in the last 3 months. So you can go to Redfin or Zillow, whichever you prefer, and go to the house type. You want to select land, and you want to see the sold in the last 3 months. And then you want to kind of look at your area. We're looking for you remember like basic training, how we're like sighting in, our weapon system. We want to kind of get it within like a silver dollar. I'm looking for clusters. I'm looking for clusters of solds, because that's where the demand's at. I don't want to go somewhere where there's no demand, because then I won't be able to sell the land or make any money off of it. And then next, you got to take a little time. This is where the time comes in, the research. 20, 30 minutes clicking on every single one of those solds and writing down what it sold for, like how much, and what the size of the land was. And after you click on every single one of those, you're going to see the land sizes. I want you to pick the land size that's selling the most, whether it's half acre or 10,000 square foot or 5 acres, that's where you start on PropStream in that specific area, that specific zip code. Or you could draw the polygon thing or the square or the rectangle, triangle, and just go that circle around those and only pick the 10,000 square foot lots or whatever was in most demand and mail those landowners first. So I just gave a lot. I don't want to keep talking too much.
And I'm going to give the really shameless plug and tell everyone that I'll drop the link for PropStream at a discount with a free trial in the show notes, because everybody knows a good real estate investor has an affiliate code for PropStream, but it gives you a free trial. And I've got a bunch of videos on how to do all the search filters, because PropStream is awesome. I actually really like that you recommended to search by specific parcel size, because I think that's huge. Because the problem that I had when I first started looking at land was like, well, damn it, how do I comp this? Like, it's like, well, this parcel is this size, but it's in this neighborhood and it's this zoning, and it's not the same as like a 3-2 within 200 square feet of the same 3-2 within a half mile is easy to comp compared to, an R1 versus an R2 zoned piece of land that's a half mile from the other one, but there's a, quarter acre difference in size, but it got very complicated. So it's like, oh, now if I know to do a very similar sized parcel, then I can have a really good idea. Like, everybody's buying a 10,000 square foot lot in this area. There's probably a reason. I can probably I'll probably be able to move that.
Yeah, and we're just chunking it down. We're not taking the whole list on, because you get a list like that first list that I got from El Paso County, Colorado. That thing was like, it was 96 pages. I was so intimidated by it. I just did one, and then I sent the video to my virtual assistant, Rachel, and she just took one day at a time, and it took her like 3.5 weeks to scrub that list. But we get overwhelmed by those sorts of things. And at the same time, we're comping it, because remember, writing down the price. And if it's 10,000 square foot and it's sold for $10,000, it's pretty easy to divide 10,000 divided by 10,000 square foot. And you see what the price per square foot is for that piece of land. And now it's like, okay, I can build my profit into that. Like, let's just say I want to make 10 grand. And that lot sold for $100,000, or the land around that area, those 10,000 square foot lots are selling for 10,000 on average, because we're dealing in averages here. So we're going to take, let's just say it was 15 that sold. They're all 10,000 square foot lots. One sold for 100,000, one sold for 95, one sold for 105. Well, we're going to divide it up. I just only mentioned 3. We're going to divide it by 3, and that's going to give us the average of about $100,000. So now we know the average. And we want to make $10,000 off of a deal. So we know we need to pay no more than 90 grand. But by the way, our builder or our buyer wants a discount too. So he wants a $10,000 discount. So now we need to pay 80 grand. And how are we going to find that builder or buyer? A realtor. Okay, it's a $100,000 lot. So realtor's going to make 6%. So there's 6 grand. So we need to come down 26 grand. And that doesn't include like title work or title fees. So let's just call it 30 to be safe. So what am I offering for this $100,000 lot? $70,000. That way I can assign that contract to make a quick 10 grand. We don't have to get the stuff at 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, which I'll be ringing the victory bell when I do. But really, we just back up what our profit, what we want to make for profit.
The interesting thing with that is, you say that, and you're basically offering 70% of full market, but some people hear that and they're like, oh my goodness, nobody's going to say yes to that. But when you're wholesaling, I mean, you come in, you're coming in at 75% minus all of the repairs needed to the house, minus your profit. I mean, I was coming in at 40% on the dollar, so, I mean, realistically, 70% is not that much of a drop when you're talking about, hey, you've been sitting on this lot for half of them are inherited, or if you mentioned like the tax stuff, I mean, some of those things were, it's funny when you go to these tax auctions, sometimes the lot is like a 80 square foot strip that just somehow got cut into like between 2 houses. And you're like, well, nobody wants this thing. And so, but like a lot of times people own these patches of land that they don't even know they own, or they inherited, or they bought because they thought they were going to do something, or they couldn't figure out how to rezone it, or they never found a builder, or they were going to build such and such for so and so, or it was going to be their farm, or you never know the story, right? I mean, the amount of lots, especially in like rural towns, that somebody bought with an intent to build something, and then it's like when you see a 1970s Chevelle in somebody's garage, and it's just been sitting covered in dust for like 30 years. And you're just like, look, man, I don't know when, but at some point you're going to have to admit that you're not actually going to renovate that car. And when you do, let me know. I know you tell yourself that eventually you're going to refurbish that car, and I get it. When you come to terms with the fact that you're never actually going to get around to it, I want to buy it. So you just let me know.
That is a good example. Such a good example, because that's kind of how, this business is. We have to make a lot of offers. We have to talk to a lot of landowners. But just imagine that person has got that 76 Chevelle in their garage, and there's boxes stacked all around it and on top of it. And his wife, every time she walks in there, she's like, "You got to clean this garage." And one day this man receives a letter right before Christmas that says, "Hey, I'd like to buy your car at a fair price, no hassle offer. Call me, text me. God bless you." He's like, "You know what? Today I'm going to make Martha happy. I'm going to sell that car, and I don't care. It's just quick cash. Give me quick cash. It's worth 30. I'll sell it for 15, and I'm going to take her on that trip she's been asking me to go on for so many years." That's exactly how that works.
Yep.
Because why would someone go and trade in a Rolex watch at a pawn shop for 50 cents on the dollar? They do it every single day. Actually, they give less than 50 cents on the dollar. It's more like 10 cents on the dollar for a Rolex in a pawn shop. But people do it all the time.
Yeah. It's never about the dollar. It's always about the story behind it, the pain point, the time, the emotional tie, the whatever, right? It's especially when you get taxes involved on a property. I mean, I would imagine with vacant land that taxes is usually one of the motivators, right? Because with houses, it's always like tenants or dilapidated or repairs or whatever, and taxes a lot of times. But with vacant lots, I would imagine a lot of times it's taxes. I bet you like right around this time of year is probably a good time for marketing in land world, because people are like, fuck property taxes, god damn it, I forgot about this shit. And then they're like, who knows? But in my head, it's like every time December rolls around, I'm like, oh man, here we go again. And another $20,000-$30,000 in property taxes.
That's me too. When the accountant calls and says it's time to pay all, we have a little over 300 parcels of land we own. Now, a lot of we collect monthly. So if the taxes are $1,200 a year, I collect $100 a month to pay for it. But you bet your beans, like it aggravates me to pay these taxes because it's a big bill, and you got to keep up with them and pay the county. And sometimes you got to send like 9 checks because they want to check for every parcel. So it's a pain in the butt, even for a land investor that collects all year long, to pay these taxes. So that's part of it. That's eventually what you build into.
So what else? I mean, it doesn't sound like the cool thing with this is it really doesn't sound like you need much of a team, right? Like you don't need a property manager. You don't need, I mean, if you've got the note servicer and you've got somebody helping you with the letters going out, and I mean, maybe like a transaction coordinator or a lead manager. I mean, I'd imagine like if you have a really good CRM, or I mean, what kind of a team do you build out as you scale this? I mean, I can't imagine it's that complex.
Yeah. My first team member, Jen Way, and she's still with me. I brought her on in 2016. She started by just answering the phone calls, because I talked about those phone calls I received on those first 687 postcards to the tax delinquent list. Those things drove me crazy. Anyhow, so that was my first hire, was an acquisition manager, someone to take the calls. Actually, I take that back. My first hire was Rachel, virtual assistant in the Philippines. Second hire was Jen. Yeah. Rachel helped me scrub the list. so that I can mail them. So I recommend, getting a virtual assistant off of Upwork. I love to do what I do best and find other people to help me out with the rest. And I don't do a whole lot of things very good. So I had to get a team member to help me post the land, to do the due diligence, and does it have road access, call the county, get all these things. Because I love just the art of the deal. I don't like all the rigmarole throughout the deal. So you don't have to start with hiring a team. Get some money in the bank first. And it's really easy to do.
You and I sound like peas in a pod. I like to talk about the thing. I don't like the details. Do not come at me.
Yeah.
Do not nope, no, thank you. It's like the running joke at one point, like the title company when I was wholesaling somewhat actively, the title company had my LLC had it set up to where like my transaction coordinator and my acquisitions manager could both sign for the purchase and the sale of properties in my stead. And the title company has a stamp with my signature, so that it was literally like, if I have to show up there, there is a problem. Like something went wrong. Like you can call me if you need me and I can tell you to stamp my signature, but like, I don't need, like, you don't need me.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
And
all those emails that's all right. You're gonna have a lot of editing on the show. I'm really sorry. All those emails that the title company sends out, too. It's like there's so much to read, and it's the devil's in the details. I will say that. I'm not saying don't read your emails, but they're aggravating to read. And I stopped going to the closings as well. But I think that's a bad thing. I think you should go to the closings because, well, not like a lot of our land sellers are out of state, so I'm not going to those. But when I was doing more houses, birds of a feather flock together. A lot of times, I would bring a gift to closing. Like if I found out the seller liked watermelons, I would get just whatever, just crazy, stupid stuff, and just have a good time. We'd have a celebration. I'd bring donuts and lunch for the title company, and we just call it a celebration. But guess what? The sellers always had a friend that they would refer. But you have to ask for that. Like, hey, anybody else that wants to unload their piece of crap house or dirty, like your house smells like cat pee. You know anybody else like that? Yeah, Martha and Jim. They got about 8 cats and they've given me their number. So
I love
fun times.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. It's definitely all about the referral and the network. It's huge. So somebody is, we're marketing, we're building the system out. The team really doesn't have to be that crazy for this, which is awesome. So it's lean. What do you think? We kind of talked about this a little bit before recording. Everybody's spooked right now. I don't want to say everybody's spooked. Some people are a little spooked or wishy-washy on the market because of rates and all the other crap. What do you think are some of the pros and cons with land in the next year or two, given that God knows what's going to happen with the market?
Yeah, I'll tell you some cons. Let's start with the negative first. A lot of these builders are slowing down in some areas, like where we could sell a piece of land in a week, now it's taking 45 days. So that's one thing. But here's the thing. Now knowing those cons, and when did that start? It was about July when the interest rates went up. We now know that, and we're just offering bigger discounts. And here's what's crazy is usually it takes about 6 months for the consumer to catch on. But when the news is like flashing, crazy times and depression and no fuel and all these things, they're scaring our consumers. So they're seeing this as well. So they're already catching on, and it hasn't even taken 6 months. So that's one thing. It's taking a little longer to sell it, but we adjust for that. We offer less, and we know that we have to offer less. I'm not going past July right now to look at comps. I'm not going to June because June was at 2 and 3%. Now it's at 7%. Things have changed. And then let's go to the pro side. I'm now seeing land in foreclosure. Now that's not a fun game, and God bless the person that's having to deal with that. But I haven't seen land in foreclosure in the last 10 years. So what does that tell me? There's blood in the streets. We keep going back to the intelligent investor, Benjamin Graham. I'll take it from Warren Buffett. there's blood in the streets, he's buying. Warren buys when people are selling, and he sells when people are buying. I don't think Warren even sells anything, honestly, but except for stocks. But
Yeah,
that's the thing. We're going to see opportunity that we haven't seen in a while.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, what I was saying before we hit record is the opportunity that I see is just the people who had bought land kind of in path of progress and were holding out for developers that didn't sell to a developer and or didn't get permits or didn't get the zoning rezoned, or for whatever reason the development didn't happen or didn't finish or didn't whatever, that still have a lot just sitting there. If the market actually comes down like everyone thinks it's going to, or just sits stagnant, especially if they're on an ARM or an IO with a short refi period, you know, that person is going to feel the pain. And there's only so long they're going to hold on to it before they're going to be open to some kind of an offer. And if it was primed in a position where it's a path of progress and you can come in and snag it at the right time, you might be able to snag it right as developers are going to be open to it again, or at least be in a position to hold it for that time, or who knows. But I'm going to definitely be poking around looking for some decent locations where there's lots open. There's Springfield's still growing enough that I think there's some opportunity there for some vacant lots.
Absolutely. And you can Google this, you can research this yourself. Look at the cancellation of contracts that DR Horton is doing right now with landowners. I mean, they're giving away millions of dollars in cancellations of contract and escrow deposits right now because they don't want the land. What do home builders need? They need land. But right now, these guys, a lot of their buyers are canceling their contracts. So imagine putting yourself in the shoes of this couple. They're like, they finally have hit it. They've been holding this land for 10 years and they're about to sell it to DR Horton, and DR Horton cancels the contract. Now they're going to be even more motivated, these sellers. So I agree with you, David.
Well, all right, Brent. So where can people reach out to you if they'd like more information? Landsharks.com, obviously, but is that the best spot if they'd like to reach out to you and get some more info on land, or what's the best way to touch base?
Yeah, the landsharks.com. Appreciate you sharing that. I have a YouTube channel, Brent Bowers. I talk about land investing and how to buy the first parcel of land. A lot. I teach so much stuff on my YouTube. You can start making money right now in land, or just hit me up on Instagram, Brent L Bowers. L as in Lima.
Right on. Is there anything we missed that you think we should cover before we wrap up? And ironically, we then switch seats and I go record with you.
Yeah, I can't wait to record you for the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. This is gonna be awesome. I would say go out and take some action. You've got this amazing, military to millionaire podcast. David gives advice all the time. His he only has the best guest on the show, but just take action and do the things like, we got these libraries out there. They still exist, right? All the answers are there. We just have to take the action or hire someone to help us take the action, or get an accountability coach to kick us in the butt so we take the action. So you just go out there and do it. We all know how to lose weight. We all know how to gain weight. And it's just taking the action to do it.
Yeah. Action's what matters, right? All for it. Brent, thanks so much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like I should give the shameless plug that if any of you are listening to this and you're not in the War Room Mastermind yet, he's going to come and do an actual presentation where he deep dives a little bit more. So you should join.
And don't forget to talk about your book that I just bought. Like, I wish I would have known about this book before I got on this podcast. I would have been talking about it more.
I know. I'm the worst salesman ever. Go buy the No BS Guide to Military Life. And actually, what I should be talking about is that I don't even have... I wish I had like a cover to hold up, but the 90-day Military Millionaire Planner is just about done with development. We've got cover option 1 done, and I've got 2 revisions that I requested so I can compare and contrast. the entire inside is formatted. So once I say yes to whichever cover the audience likes most, we should be ready to run the first trial print on basically me saying I'm sick of having to bounce like 6 different journals around to figure out what I like. So I'm just going to compile all of them and build my own. So it's going to be sweet. I don't think I've said that on the podcast yet. So yeah. Cool. That's a wrap.